Welcome to day 27 of your 30-day Dental MBA using managerial economics. Where we left off last time is power is clarity of focus. Tony Robbins says that 100 times. Power is clarity of focus. We've talked about fixed cost versus variable cost. But the real cost is simply knowing your cost. If you don't know your cost, what difference does it make what your fixed cost or variable cost is? Do your staff know their cost? Are you controlling your overhead with the magic of group practice? Or is this sovereign profession of ours going to leave 3,800 graduates a year walking out of these 54 dental schools, floating around, fueling publicly traded HMOs, PPOs, while you're closed down for 3 days going fishing, or off for 2 weeks while your consumers lose, your staff lose? The show must go on. And when I talk about working really hard, remember, I'm talking about your money working hard for you, your dental office working hard for you. You're the shareholder. Move the shareholder away from the corporation, this figment of legal, fictitious corporations paperwork. That's what needs to work hard. Your corporation needs to work double time. Double your turnover from 32 hours out of 168 hours a week to 64 hours on a 168-hour week. We'll go from using your overhead from 20% of the time to 40% of the time. There are 8,766 hours in a year. How many of these are you using? We've talked about raising your fees. Remember, 10% fee decrease means that you do 51% more dentistry for the same net profit. A 20% fee decrease means you do 222% more dentistry for the same profit. In contrast to a 10% fee increase, means a typical dentist will do only 74% of the dentistry they're doing for the same net income, and a 20% fee increase means you're only doing 59% of the dentistry that you're doing for the same net income. Remember, we don't want to grow leaves. We want grapes. We want earnings. You should reconsider your competitive strategy in regards to all PPOs, HMO fee schedules, or whoever makes you get your fees approved like Delta Dental, when the monetary amount you adjust off per insurance claim is greater than the dollar amount you spend on attracting each new patient. If it only costs you $50 to attract a new patient, why are you writing off $100 on a crown? Why are you doing a root canal for $200? Why are you doing a root canal for $500 when the endodontist who's going to grade your work is doing it for $700 next door? Why did you adjust off $200 when it only costs you $50 to get a new patient? 1-800-DENTIST, heck, they guarantee you a new patient for $100. Well, they can't guarantee it, that's illegal, but the average person that pays them $1,500 gets about 15 new patients a month. Talk to Fred Joyle at 1-800-DENTIST. Call these guys up. These guys are sharp, and if you think their game is no good, you tell me why in California the average zip code has a 2 to 4 year waiting list to get on. And start studying. We've been talking about these American Dental Partners. How do you have American Dental Partners in your backyard, publicly traded, complying with the SEC, the IRS, Wall Street, publicly traded? All of these are on NASDAQ except one, Orthodontic Centers of America. All the rest of them are all on the NASDAQ. I can understand if you're not interested in following Henry Schein or Patterson or Dentsply or what have you. But my gosh, if these companies only do family practice dentistry and their 10K annual reports are showing all their cards, and what's more importantly is as you read these, you'll learn how to read income statements. You'll learn how to keep score so that when you go to other seminars and they're talking about yardsticks that they're pulling out of their pocket, they're like magician's hats. They pull out their hat, pull out a yardstick, and they say, you should be doing this. These are artificial yardsticks. Get used to reading balance sheets, cash flow statements. This is how, if you walk in MBA school and you can't read a 10K or a balance sheet or all that kind of stuff, I'm sure MBA school is going to be a lot of work for you, okay? Do a lot of prep work. Just like, remember in undergrad where we kept spending so many summers and Saturdays and visiting dental offices, spending time with dental offices. I had some really great dentists in Wichita, Kansas. Every break, they let me stay in there with the day. They let me borrow all their Gordon Christian tapes. I had already listened to Omar Reed, Quest, Jim Pride, Schuster. I had already listened to all these guys before I even started dental school, okay? So start reading this stuff now, and just because you're 45 years old, you got time for a whole new career. You got time for a whole new career while you're still a dentist. I figure the average person has 3,700 out of 8,700 hours a year on the side to go back to school and become a brain surgeon or whatever. Heck, one of my best friends in dental school, Chip Castine, is a full-time successful dentist in Bakersfield, California. And then on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, he's in LA and he's a full-time actor, movie star. He has his own gosh darn play theater. This guy is in plays, movies. He has 2 full-time careers. So you've got time to get down. Burner Dental Management. If you can't tell me on an index card the difference between American Dental Partners, Burner Dental Management, Coast Dental, Monarch Dental, Interdent Dental, Gentle Dental, American Dental, all of these things, I wonder what you're doing in your free time. And read good stuff. Read Forbes, Fortune, Inc., Success, Wall Street Journal. On Sunday, you know, you're in Kansas. Don't read the Salina, Kansas Sunday newspaper or the Wichita Eagle and Beacon. Read the New York Times and read the Farran report, 48 pages a month with no advertising, or the Richards report or the Profitable Dentist. Read these things. These are your industry. You're interested in this stuff. And a lot of times you say to me, well, you don't have time to read all this stuff. Well, make time, okay? Climb the mountains, slay the dragons. Know what Burner Dental Management. Read their balance sheet. Read their cash flow statement. Get in the habit of benchmarking off of good data. Don't listen to dentists who don't have a prototype that tell you your staff should do this, then all the patients say this, and yada, yada, yada. First question you should ask these people, are you a dentist? Do you have a prototype? You've been talking about this car that doesn't use gasoline, that it gets 100 miles a gallon on water. Can I see it? And most of them will say, well, I don't have time to do it. It's all right here. I'm a legend in my own mind. I don't need a prototype. Why make a prototype when you can listen to everything I say and believe it? Start benchmarking. Remember, when you go to a practice management lecture, even if they do have office, you might be taking a very bizarrely small sample. It's 161,000 dentists. There might be a dentist with one prototype that can do something that you can't do. But for statistics purpose, we need a good sample. In the publicly traded, they range from 30 to 200 offices. The number of dentists employed with these publicly traded, where the information's good, it's filed with the SEC. If there's a misstatement, you know, it's a felony, 5 years in jail. The average one of these people has between 39 and 256 dental offices, or 39 and 256 dentists as of the time I did this taping. The percent held for management services are between 9 and 78%, depending on what they're going to pay for. The total company gross revenues between 7.9 million and 53 million. These are big, serious players. Total company net income is anywhere from losing 3 million to making 5 million. Net income for dentists is anywhere between losing 12,000 and making 62. Now you're laughing, you're saying, I can't believe they'd lose $12,000 on a dentist. I've seen the books of several offices that had an associate. They were paying this guy 40% of production. They weren't even collecting all that money, and their overhead was 65, 68%. I've seen solo practicing dentists with associates lose $47,000 on an associate for a year, and the associate didn't know it, the dentist didn't know it until we showed him, and I often wondered if the guy was even smart enough to understand and believe what I just showed him. So these benchmarking stuffs are serious. You could be losing between a floor of 12,500 negative on your associate to making 62 a year off them. Percent of revenue from fee for service, it averages about 33%. Percent of revenue from PPOs around 38%. Percent of revenue from capitated managed care is around 53%. The percent of total revenue paid to dentists is between 14.5% to 23%. See, no one's publicly traded making a profit paying an associate 40%. You can't lose money on the deal, or the deal eventually comes. All good things must come to an end if it's not a win-win. Percent of revenue paid to the front and back office laborers between 14% and 22%. Lab and sundries, they always combine those between 10 and 17%. So see, you could theoretically get your lab bill down to 5% and your supplies down to 5%, because there are publicly traded companies who have it down to 10%. Rent expense as a percent of income is between 5.4 and 9.4. How many of these practice management people did they say rent's 5%? Well, hell, on all the publicly traded, the lowest was 5.4, and it goes up to 9.4, because those people see rent as a form of advertisement. Those people know about location, location, location. They know that Ray Kroc said he was not in the hamburger business. He sold milkshakes, he sold McDonald's franchises, but the real money he made was in the real estate business. And these guys get location. I paid $275,000 just for the dirt underneath my dental office. And if I wasn't paying it, Long John Silver's and Burger King were trying to get it. The other people that bought the 3 other pads in my shopping center was Pizza Hut, Bank One, and a chicken house. We're in a Safeway parking lot. So rethink your artificial yardsticks on what people will pay for rent. Advertising is between 0 and 6%. Depreciation is between 1.5%, 4.3%. G&A is between 5.2 and 14.5. And really, really study Coast, American Dental Partners, Burner, Castle, Monarch, Gentle, Dental Care Alliance, Pentagra. If you're an orthodontist, you should know everything about Orthodontic Service of America. My gosh, that guy is a flaming genius. Lasaris, who does that in Point Verde, California, grew up in New Orleans. There's probably, there probably will never be another orthodontist that knows the business of ortho better than he does. God, he's traded on the New York Stock Exchange with a market cap of $1 billion. And every orthodontist I know in my backyard doesn't even know who Lasaris is. I mean, come on, don't stick your head in the sand like an ostrich. No man is an island. These people affect everything you do in your industry. Once again, Coast, American Dental Partners, Burner, Castle, Monarch, Gentle, Dental Care Alliance, Pentagra. Figure these guys out, see what they're up to, see what they're doing, benchmark up these guys. So like I said, if Honda sees Chrysler come out with a minivan and they sell 10 million units of these things, they say, that's a pretty good marketing study. Chrysler came out. There's only about 10 of us major car companies, Chrysler, Ford, GM, Honda, Mitsubishi, Toyota, Lexus, Infiniti, Saab, Audi, Jaguar, whatever you have, BMW, Volkswagen. These people, all they do is keep one eye on the customer, one eye on cost, while they keep focusing back on what their other partners, their benchmarking people are doing. So benchmark these stocks. In fact, you might even know the industry so well, you might even get in on stock low, ride it till it's high, what have you. Dental Care Alliance, these things are all, there's Gentle Dental, they just merged. Now I believe they're called, with American Dental Partners, I believe they're Interdent. I just saw something in the newspaper. Not sure on that. It came over the wire late at night, a couple nights ago. But now I'm really dating myself. There's Monarch. This guy is another genius. He's out of Dallas, Texas. And you might not agree with doing cap or managed care. Don't get caught up in the details. Just study their corporate strategy. Furthermore, if you know more than ever that you want to be a sit-down Mexican restaurant, are you telling me that you don't want to sit there and watch what salsa sales are doing in the grocery store? You're not telling me that it really had something to think about when the United States started selling more salsa than ketchup in 1990? Are you telling me that if you had a sit-down Mexican restaurant, you wouldn't really watch closely when Taco Bell comes out with a new soft taco chicken or a quesadilla, and you got your head in the sand, and the customers are coming in and say, do you got soft shell tacos with chicken or quesadillas? And you stand there like, what are you talking about? Well, I got a Taco Bell. Oh, well, Taco Bell's immoral and unethical, and they're in a different market segment, blah, blah, blah. I think they should be burned down, closed up. Don't be silly. It's market segmentation, it's not quality. Benchmark off these guys. Find out what Monarch doing. Pentagra here, Omar Reed. Before you sell, when you sell out to these companies, if that's your exit strategy, remember, look at the historical cost of these things. A lot of these things go public at, $9 or $8.50, and within a year or two, they're trading at 1 or 2. So if you say, well, they bought my practice for $400,000, and the only other offers I got was $350,000, well, would you rather have $350,000 in cash or $400,000 in stock that your own contract says you can only sell 25% a year of it for 4 years, and before the first year's up, that stock's from 8 to 2? Remember, don't let your money get too far from cash. And when in stocks, if you have to get out of your stock, that's called liquidity. You could really get killed if you have to get out of stock. All the money lost in the stock market is when you're not in it for the long run, when you're a day trader, when you're a short-term trader. If you're in it for the long haul, you're an investor. Warren Buffett, this guy is so serious that when he gets into a stock, he says the only reason he got into the stock is because he planned on never getting out of it. I mean, He started buying into Geico till he owns the whole company. He has no intention of selling that. He starts buying into See's Chocolate till he owns the whole company. When he bought into Coca-Cola, he bought in till he had a third of his money in there. And the last I heard, he's still in Coke and Disney, okay? This guy's not a trader. It's a long-term investment. If you got management that they execute and their industry is in a tailwind, Warren Buffett smells value. It's all about management, executing a vision, in a strong growing industry in a tailwind. You don't want to be in textiles. You don't want to be in industries that are on their way out. You want to be in a strong industry that's growing with a tailwind. And it's not about secret recipes. It's not about, oh, no one will ever find out the formula for Coke. You can get on the internet and find the formula for Coke in 8 seconds. It's not secret recipes. It's not patents. It's execution, execution, execution. When leadership can go in and put in systems and execute them. There is nothing in a McDonald's that a dentist or a cardiovascular surgeon or a lawyer cannot figure out. It's just that you can't execute it. And every time you spend 4 hours on a golf course, are you escaping? Or are you trying to get out of the cage because you keep getting bit? Or are you actually having fun knocking that little white ball around? Make sure you're out there having fun. Make sure you're not out there escaping. First signs that you're escaping is any dysfunctional behavior. If you're starting to do substance abuse, if you're drinking too much, if you're overeating, if you got a girlfriend, whatever, first sign of dysfunctional behavior is that somewhere in your cage, something's poking you. Something's causing pain, yet you have to keep going back in the cage because of your pay. When you're doing things you don't want to do for money, it always ends up in disease, depression, ultimately death. Remember, don't do things for money you don't want to do. So face the dragon and slay him. Most dentists, they just all their entire career, they just run around trying to get away from this dragon instead of just facing the son of a gun and slaying him. And it's more fun to slay a dragon than to knock a little white ball around. And the girlfriend thing only lasts a minute. So just do it. Just face the dragon and slay him. It's fun. Look at Omega Orthodontics, Apple Orthodontics, all these different orthodontic things. People always overestimate how complex business is. Jack Welch of GE says, it isn't rocket science. It's one of the world's most simple professions. Most global businesses only have 3 or 4 critical competitors. You know who they are. You know what the hell they're doing. There aren't many things you do with the business. It's not as if you're choosing among 2,000 options. You know who your competitors are. Maybe there's one dentist doing an HMO, that's Taco Bell. Maybe there's another one doing a PPO. And maybe you're Ruth Chris, and there's only 2 or 3 other dentists within 3 or 4 miles that are really doing a quality product. You know what they're doing. You know what their hours are. You know how long you're staffing with them. You know if their uniforms, name tags, accessible from the road. You get their flyers in the mail. You see them in the yellow pages. You know if they got 1-800 dentists. Just figure it out. Dental office revenue, about 43% of it comes from the patient, about $22 billion a year as the year 2000. About 52% is private insurance. That breaks down to managed care, about $6 billion, and private insurance like Delta, Indemnity, Blue Cross Blue Shield, all those, about $18 billion. Total insurance is $24 billion. When you hear all these lectures out there saying, "Oh, we don't do insurance. We're insurance independent." Yeah, it's pretty easy to be insurance independent when you make 99% of your money lecturing. Okay, guys, figure that stuff out. Okay, only 3% of all dentists take no form of insurance, yet 99% of practice management lectures make you feel like you're some bastard child taking insurance. Well, yeah, let me tell you something. If you make $1 million a year lecturing, yeah, you probably don't need to take Delta. You probably don't need to do insurance. You can probably be insurance independent. Now, the rest of it doesn't mean that they have to be the insurance is the tail and you're the dog. But, you know, if it's manageable, as long as you're calling the shots and you feel good about what you're doing, and most importantly, if your return on equity is 12% plus, then you're doing the right thing. When your return on equity drops below 12%, not only do I not wonder why you're taking insurance, I wonder why the hell you don't sell your whole damn dental office and put in an index fund and then go get a job at Taco Bell or go get a job as an associate or retire to Arizona and work for me. Hell, I'll get you making between 145, 167. Government only kicked in $2 billion. That's mainly Medicaid, Medicare, Denti-Cal, stuff like that. Total U.S. dental industry in 1999 was 98 was $48 billion. We talked about the three major business strategies. Market differentiation. You got to differentiate your product from someone else's. If not, you're a commodity. Anybody can make a bushel of wheat. No one cares where it came from. It's only sold on price. Cost leadership is number two, where price rules. It's the least defensible. There'll never be an end to how cheap someone's going to demonstrate an HMO. When you're doing Medicaid, Medi-Cal, every day they'll cut another corner. They always cut out the profit. They always turn down their staff. Their staff usually is in uniform, name tag, and doesn't make any more money than Walmart. When you go into Walmart next time, ask them if they got health insurance. There's no benefits there. There's no 401k. It's very, very focused on cost. That's least defensible. And for a sovereign profession, you got to have if you're in that stuff, you got to be thinking of it like Mother Teresa Calcutta did or something. And then, of course, there's your target market. Are you Tom Warren, 1,000 Gym Seminar, where you found there's a big Portuguese community? Are you a dentist I know in Portland, Oregon? Had one staff member speak a different language from Asia. Had Taiwanese, Cambodia, Filipino, Mandarin. Get target market. Market differentiation is basically a courteous long-term staff, tooth-colored fillings, and most importantly, same-day appointments if they want them. Availability, accessibility. You can get the appointment in that day because whenever you get booked up for a day, you're raising your prices, adding capacity, or going faster until one of those three gets them in. Okay? The five deadly business sins, according to Peter Drucker, were: do not worship high profit margins and premium pricing. Number two, do not misprice a new product by charging what the market will bear. Try to capture the most profit you can, not just off one person. You want to charge $1,000 for bleaching and do one bleaching case a year and make $600? Or do you want to charge $400 for bleaching, make $100 off of a bleaching case every gosh darn day you're open? So would you rather make $400 a year or $1,600 a month? Do not use cost plus profit equals price. Price determines what market segment you're in. You got a price for the market segment you're in. Are you Chevrolet, Pontiac, Olds, Buick, Cadillac? Pick the price you're in, subtract the profit that you need, and then try to approach the year for the first time of your career with a gosh darn budget. Do not slaughter tomorrow's opportunities on the altar of yesterday. Meaning, number five, don't feed your problem and starve opportunities. Don't take 6 weeks to continue ahead for TMJ if it was only one of your patients last year and you didn't have a problem. Don't go take a big course for $8,000, learn how to do veneers, if you only did one veneer case last year, but you sit there and refer an ortho case out every week for $4,000 for the last 50 weeks where it was already sold. You have to sell mom veneers. They come in and diagnose themselves and ask for ortho. Go see Brock Rondeau or Richard Litt or any of these guys. Either compete on price with cost leadership or quality with market differentiation. If you're doing quality dentist and you can't, I don't know how if a patient can differentiate an amalgam with anatomy carved in it, with secondary anatomy carved in it, versus an amalgam with thumbprint in it. I don't know if a patient can really differentiate between a gold crown with an open margin and a gold crown with a closed margin. I know the market can differentiate between looking and seeing an all-tooth colored restoration versus a black one or a gold one or a silver one. I know the market can differentiate between I have to wait 4 days to get in your office for a cleaning. Today's dental got me in today. I know they can differentiate between us handling their insurance for them and you giving them a walkout statement telling them they're on their own because you're not into service, or you think insurance is $22 billion is dirty money and you're not interested in getting any part of insurance's $22 billion of a $47 billion industry. Cost leadership is tough. Do you have a cost competitive advantage over your competitors? Is it significant? Do you take their dental benefits? Do you have lower prices? Target market's awfully fun. Do you target a specific group of people that have special unmet needs, wants, desires? We've always done this with Spanish. Does your office speak a foreign language? I always have someone at the front desk that speaks Spanish. I always try to have a hygienist that speaks Spanish. I always want, they're 20% of Arizona and 19 offices across the street. I think there's one other office that speaks Diablo Espanol. In fact, I tried to learn this myself, and I found out the hard way that neurolinguistic programming, that If you're birth to 11, throw yourself in a foreign country, you'll pick up the language, the tone, the pitch. You'll conjugate verbs and not even know you do it. After you're 11 years old, you can go learn these foreign languages for years and years and years. On paper, you can write it. On paper, you can conjugate the verbs. When you speak it, you never nail the tone or the pitch. The ear ain't wired up. Even if you are speaking Spanish, I've always noticed that when I speak Spanish to my patients, I'm the only one that knows it. I speak Spanish to them all day long, and they just look at me, and they're like, what the hell is he speak Russian? And I'm like, that was Spanish. And like, could have fooled me. It's tough, you're over 11. That's why I got my kids that big time now. They're called Muzzy. Muzzy foreign language are cartoons. And all they are is cartoons, and you pick any of 50 languages, French, Spanish, Italian, Mandarin, Chinese, whatever it is. My boys, it's so funny, when they were little, you know, they always want to watch cartoons, and you say it's bad, or then they watch some whatever. I let them watch all the cartoons they want, but it's only Muzzy. And they watch all these cartoons, and they're always in Spanish. And what's funny is my little 3-year-old, you know, you just pick it up on the playground. He really doesn't know which words are Spanish or which words are English, and it's okay. It's the best way to do it. But sometimes he'll be at the store and he'll ask someone questions Spanish. This guy's looking down at this white kid and wouldn't know what the hell he said. And Zach doesn't know why this guy doesn't know what he's saying. And then he'll turn to me and he doesn't know yet that about a third of his words are Spanish that the older kids do. But, you know, they watch cartoons probably 1,000 hours in Spanish, and they picked it up neurolinguistically while their brain's still forming. The minute you're born, that's the maximum speed of brain development. It starts to slow down. By 11 years old, it's stopped. All learning after 11 in music, math, and languages is trying to retrofit information into an already programmed brain. Ask Hewlett-Packard if they can take a TI-34 and with the existing wiring, wire it to do something else. It's very hard to do with the old human brain. So remember, you want your kid to be an athlete like Tiger Woods, get him out there golfing 18 holes when he's 2. You want your kids to learn Spanish, do it now while they're under 11. You know, from birth to 11 is the most important time with your children. So make sure if you want them into math, music, whatever the hell it's going to be, get them in there quick. And then when they're 11, then they can buy them a bong and tell them to relax. Perfect price elasticity is when price has an elastic effect on demand. At a price of $4 a bushel, the market demand will elastically stretch out to accommodate whatever you can supply. If wheat is selling for $4, whatever the hell my farm can come up with, if I take it to the market and at $4 or less, I can unload it all into the market. It'll elastically stretch out until infinity. At $4.01, no one wants my wheat. I say, well, why don't you buy my wheat? And they say, well, why should I pay $4.01 when wheat's wheat? And I say, well, all my wheat was made with John Deere farm equipment, and all my people had Delta Dental Insurance, and they wore Nikes. Well, no one cares. It's a commodity. This is a very tough business to be into. In an unregulated commodity business, a company must lower its costs to competitive levels or face extinction. Usually Warren Buffett says they lose their profits first, then they turn around and start trying to beat up their employees to squeeze costs out of them. Then they turn around and start biting their suppliers. It's not even fun to be into. In fact, the easiest way to ask, is this industry in a tailwind where we're really getting, we're growing really fast, or are we in a headwind? And just look at strikes. How come you never see a strike in healthcare, Microsoft, Intel, Hewlett-Packard, Dell Computers? How come in all the technology and healthcare industries there are no strikes? And then you go into steel and textiles and assembly lines. In fact, most of the strikes, in fact, almost all the strikes are simply up in the Northeast. In fact, I was a dentist coming out of school. Last place I'd want to go is the Northeast. Hell, all the growth has been from Florida to California. I mean, Florida's kicking butt. Georgia's going nuts. Arkansas is actually exploding. Texas is exploding. New Mexico's exploding. Arizona's exploding. California's exploding. So is Portland. So is Seattle. So is Hawaii. A lot of dentists have told me, they said, yeah, but Howard, you're lucky. You know, you practice out there in Phoenix. And I'm up here in gosh darn North Dakota. Well, hey, buddy, you're a pigeon. You flew back to the cage. I was born in Wichita, Kansas. In fact, Wichita, for 20 years, has had the same population. I mean, it's always the same population. You know why? Because every time a girl gets pregnant, a guy leaves town. And, and I just thought, why stay here? And plus, there's no mountains, there's no scenery, and the wind was always blowing. It drove me nuts. But I'll never forget the day I was in Kansas. The wind always blew. One day, the wind stopped blowing, and everyone fell down. I mean, it was just amazing. But, if you're coming out of dental school with $100,000 in debt, and you see Atlanta, Georgia, that's exploding, and they closed down Emory. You see Florida going crazy, Texas. If you see the West, as a general rule of thumb, anything west of the Mississippi River is doing okay. By the time you get to the southern part of the West or the southern part of the United States, kicking butt, and everyone knows that in 10,000 years from now, no one's going to be living on the North and South Poles. No one's going to be living in northern Siberia, northern Canada, the Northwest Territories. And they think in about 10,000 years, 85% of the population of the Earth will be living within 15 degrees of the equator. In fact, right now, some of the biggest real estate movements I've seen people invest in, you know where it's at? Belize. My God, Belize. If you'd have bought real estate in Belize, even in Japan, people are sitting there trying to retire in Japan on their pensions, and they don't have much money, so what are they doing? They're going down to Borneo and beautiful islands that look like Gilligan's Island in Indonesia and Australia. So wherever there's growth, you got a tailwind. Wherever there's no growth, you're in a headwind. I tell dentists all the time, come down, retire. If you're making under $145,000 a year, you ought to sell your practice. Call AFCO, sell your practice, move to Arizona, have fun in the sun. If you hate management, give it up. Come down here, work for me, and I'll love it. Price inelasticity. Here you can see when price has no effect on demand. We talked about this. You can say here's a deal where they raise their price from $500 to $800, it had no effect on the demand for their product. They sold the same quantity at $500, at $800 they did at $500. Usually this is caused from either a monopoly or a patent or a trade secret that's short-lived or the blood-sucking government, okay? An example here is, say you have colon cancer, and Pfizer has a drug for $500 a pill for colon cancer, that basically costs $500, and 6 out of 10 people live in for 5 years. Merck comes out with a pill, and their little drug, say 7 out of 10 people live 5 years. Well, the question is, for 1 in 10 greater chance, would you pay $300 more, from $500 to $800, if you had a 1 in 10 greater chance of living 5 years? Would you pay $301? Would you pay $302? Would you pay $303? At what point would you say, hell, it's just my rear end. I don't care if it falls out and rots. Hell, it's just stinky. In fact, economists always think one of the most interesting things they've studied with people is they said this. If you are going to die tonight when the sun goes down, guaranteed, and there is a pill that you can take, and you will live 1 year, and 1 year from tonight at sundown, you will die. You're either going to definitely die tonight, or you're definitely going to die in 1 year, and here's your balance sheet, here's all your money, here's your family, everything. And they like to watch how people would figure how much of their assets, would you, think about that. You really learn a lot about yourself. Would you really sell your house? Would you sell your business? Would you leave your wife penniless? What did your wife think? That's kind of funny. Would she sit there and think, well, honey, I don't want to have you around another year and then be living on the streets. I soon have you die tonight. But what this stuff does is, like Tony Robbins says, it gives clarity. It gives focus. It gives what is your equity? What kind of return are you looking for? And remember on this stuff that the number one variable on demand is price, okay? Price has a very elastic effect on demand. As your price comes down, more people will do it. This is called price has an elastic effect on demand. As price comes down, the demand elastically, quantity of units gets shoved out. You can do bleaching for $300 here. You might sit there and do a veneer case for $5,000 here. Everybody's chasing the top 5%, and 95% of all the dentists are down here. Why are you learning how to do a $10,000 veneer case if you're paying $8,000 to learn how to do it? When I look at your reports, and veneers were not 1% of your income, you only did one case last year. But if you learned how to do ortho, you don't have to be a salesman to sell. Usually the mom looks at the kid and it looks goofy, looks like they can eat corn on the cob through a chain link fence. She comes to you, hey, nuts, can you straighten this out so she can get married one day, or so he can get a date? And see, the $4,000 ortho cases here. I see Apple Orthodontics publicly traded. I see Orthodontic Centers of America traded. How come, if veneers is the magic answer, how come I don't see Veneers Unlimited trade on the New York Stock Exchange with $1 billion market cap? Because Rick Kirshner said it the best. He said, if you want to be a practice management legend, you go out there and you just say, what do the apes want to hear? And you deliver it to them on a platter. You give these guys a platter of the crap they want to hear. They will line up in groves to listen. But no one wants to hear that you got to do hard work and you got to do bleaching at $400 a time or ortho for $4,000 a time. They all want to hear that you're going to have one person come in, give you $10,000 for upper 10 veneers. Remember, you have to follow the market, okay? And perfect price elasticity has an elastic effect on demand. Perfect price inelasticity has an inelastic effect on demand. Think of a rubber band. If you're going to understand managerial economics, you got to start doing your own math. Please get on Peachtree. Happiness is an epiphenomena, a byproduct, something not to be sought directly, but an indirect reward for virtue. The only happy people I know are the ones who are working well at something they consider important. This is from Maslow on management. This guy's a genius. Do you love your job? To recognize one's responsibility or one's work out there is like a love relationship, a recognition of a belongingness, a Zusammenhang, or whatever the German word is. It has many of the paradoxical or dichotomy transcending qualities of sexual intercourse and love embracing, of two becoming perfectly one. Forget the job. Quit your job. Get out of your occupation. Find a vocation that you can have a relationship with. And embracing love where you and your job become one. You become a vocation. Some of the happiest people in their vocations don't even get paid for it. Mother Teresa, my oldest sister's a nun. She never made a penny. She loves it. How do you define your work? The typically implied notion in our society, perhaps throughout the world, is that labor is unpleasant by definition, and that enjoying yourself means lying in the sun and doing nothing. But to force people not to work is as cruel as a punishment as could be devised. This is what we see in the inner cities the most. We see more people in the inner city. This is why I don't like gambling. Where the inner city, their parents, they think that they're like they work. It's going to be unhappy, it's unpleasant, and they're always trying to think of how they're going to make money without working. That's the essence of gambling. They're going to get lucky. Well, you know, if you won $1 billion from gambling and you laid around and did nothing, we already know you're going to be, hell, that would be a torture. You'll be dysfunctional. Did you ever read that book? I forgot the name. I wish I knew the name of it. It's about the first 3 people who won the lotteries greater than 10 million. The average person lost it all in 2 years. They were usually like married for 30 years. Within a year after they won the lottery, they're divorced. One of them, they had a drug addiction problem. Never had a drug problem his whole life. Won $10 million, now he's a drug addict. I mean, you know, you want to work. And the cruelest thing the inner city does to their young is they keep telling them, well, you know, don't be a fool. You don't want to be a working man, do you? And they spend their whole life figuring out how they're going to do something without working. You look at the happiest people in the world, like Mother Teresa, Calcutta, Gandhi, people who are volunteers, people who work at the PTA, Kiwanis, the Rotary, the Salvation Army, the Red Cross. These people feel good about what they do. They do it for free. They do it at a cost to them. So get rid of the notion that you don't want to work. And when a dentist tells me, he says, well, you know, I'd like to retire in 5 years. It's like, I know one thing. I'm just glad I'm not one of your patients. I mean, how would you like to be getting worked on by a dentist who says, I hope I never have to do this again in 5 years, okay? Something's dysfunctional with the way you're framing the entire argument. This is your vocation. Most people are happy if they're very good at what they do. People are our most important assets. Most of us would argue that we believe in the potential of people and that people are our most important organizational assets. If that is the case, why then do we frequently design organizations to satisfy our need for control and not to maximize the contributions of the people? Why do I keep running into dentists who say, I don't believe in office managers, and I am not going to let my hygienist tell the patient what they need because that would be diagnosing, and she's not a doctor. Yeah, she's not a doctor, but you're an idiot. You're a control freak. Let your people go. As Tony Robbins say, unleash the power within. Let these people flow. Let them go. They're creative. They'll do things differently, and they'll make a ton of money. A paradigm design. Paradigm design equals recognition of suitability and belongingness and normality and rightness through the recognition of the intention or fate implied by the design, i.e., relationships between the two people who should get married as compared to two people who obviously should not get married. One personality can be seen to fit with another personality in the same paradigm design. David Lewin covered 495 organizations and reached the following conclusions. Companies that share profits and gains with employees have significantly better financial performance than those who don't. Duh. Companies that share information broadly. Remember, the first one was the reward. Second one, companies that share information broadly, i.e. the score, and that have broad programs of employee involvement perform significantly better than companies that are run autocratically, top-down control freaks. Number three, flexible work designs. Flexible hours, rotation, job enlargement is significantly related to financial success. Training and development have a positive effect on business financial performance. 2/3 of the bottom line impact was due to combined effect of group economic participation, intellectual participation, flexible job design, and training development. Do you know when I started my dental office, I put my first dental assistant, who's still there, Jan, in charge of what course I go to? I thought to myself, all I know is me. I know me. I have to be me. I think all of me's thoughts. But you know what? I have a patient. She's there in all the room. I sit her and say, Jan, here's a bunch of courses. I wrote down which one I want to go to. Which one do you think I should go to? And she would always say dentures and posterior composites, and I'd always want crown and bridge. And I'd say, why do you want me to do dentures? She'd say, because you suck in dentures. All your patients hate them. And I went to every denture course. In fact, that's the only reason I became a diplomat in the International Congress of Oral Implantology, because Jan rationed that the only way I'm ever going to make a lower denture fit is if I nail it down with 2 titanium implants. So see, what's wrong with asking the intellectual participation? Have you ever gone to your hygienist and said, hey, here's the 13 different categories that the FAGD, the AGD, the MAGD breaks down continuing education. Will you rank me on a 1 to 13 what I'm the best in, what I'm the worst in? And they get a little nervous, and you get that list, and then have your assistant do that. Then have your receptionist about, and the receptionist says, well, what am I based on? I don't know what a root canal is. Yeah, but people come out after I do these procedures, and you hear people call back. Is it normal? My eye swelled shut, or if it's sensitive, or is this normal, whatever. And it's amazing having other people, but you got to be high self-esteem. Just like Sally McKenzie says that, something very interesting. She goes, most of your practice management gurus won't let any other consultants come in their office because they're afraid that they'll find out that they have a skeleton in the closet or something they do that's not perfect. My God, I don't care what the hell you find. I want you to come in here and find out what's wrong. She said the same thing with the most anally retentive suicidal dentists. The reason they don't call for help is because they're afraid they're going to call in Sally McKenzie, Kathy Jameson, Roger Levin, whoever it may be, and they're going to say, oh my God, you're not perfect. You get an F in account receivables. You get an F in job descriptions. You get a D in treatment plan presentations. You get a D in continue, or whatever. Be high self-esteem. Invite intellectual participation among your staff. Be flexible job design. And by the way, people that go into management sometimes want to go back to where they were. Have you ever walked up to your front office and said, by the way, you're the office manager? Have you ever wished you wouldn't have taken off this job? Have you ever wanted to go back to being a receptionist? Is there a receptionist out there that like to trade places with you? Hell, maybe you go back there because you just had a baby, or you've had enough of 2 years. You just want to take a pay cut and relax for a little while. We'll put her in there. Think about this stuff. In general, we may say that management theory can stress roughly 2 consequences. One is the economic productivity, the quality of products, profit making, et cetera, et cetera. The other is the human products. That is the psychological health of the workers, their movement towards self-actualization, their increase in safety, belongingness, loyalty, ability to love, self-respect. What does your job do to the self-actualization so that your employees can be all that they can be? I mean, we talk about the bottom need where you need food, water, clothing. When you got all that, you want shelter and housing. Then you want to belong to something. Do you belong to a functionally healthy growing group or a dysfunctional group? And then that determines your self-esteem. Until you have all that, you can't actualize your self-potential, be all that you can be. Is your job enriching all your employees so they can turn around and enrich your customers? Do you have dental assistants that work for you for 3 years that have never flossed their teeth once? And you want to know why there's no passion in your dental office? So think about this stuff. And I'm going to go a little bit easier on you today. I've been beating you up for a long time, but basically the bottom line is this. Empower your employees. Think and grow rich. Get on a strict diet of continuing education. Make a goal for yourself that in 5 years you'll get your fellowship in the Academy of General Dentistry. Make another goal that in 5 more years you get your mastership. Reach out and just say, that's it. I take 2-3 weeks vacation a year. I'm going to spend 1 week at the Painting Institute, 6 weeks in a year. In 6 years, I'll be done levels 1 through 6. And I'm going to take my assistants to the dental assistant program. I'm at the Painting. Or I'm going to go through Brocker and Do. It's only 4 3-day weekends. And I can take my assistants and my receptionists on sessions 2, 3, and 4. Commit to intellectual development. If you're watching this tape all by yourself in your closet while you're strangling a chicken, ask yourself, why the hell don't you watch this with your whole staff? Why the hell doesn't everybody? Why are you afraid? Are you afraid that this CD, I'm going to say something and your staff's going to laugh and you think they'll be laughing at you? Watch this with your spouse. Do you talk about your spouse and your job as separately than your life? Do you say, her friends, my friends, her check account, my check account, her night out with her friends, my night out with her friends? That's 2 entities and they're going to grow apart. You talk about, this is my work and at 5 o'clock I'm going home, I'm enlisted, and this is my work and damn it, at 5 o'clock I'm going golfing, I'm enlisted, I won't call my patients, I'll call my friends, I'll call my mother. When you're watching your dad get a bypass, do you want the cardiovascular surgeon to come by and say, hey, Mean Gene, how you feel? Hey, man, that was a great bypass. I opened you up. You'll never believe this. I found 4 cartons of Marlboro Red in there and a pound of bacon. But I got all the bacon out, and how you feel? You doing good? Everything's looking good? Fire these people up? You'll be sitting there saying, gosh, my dad's lucky. Look at this surgeon came by and checked. I'll never forget when my wife would deliver. My wife had one little surgery. She told me I'm not allowed to tell anybody, because she didn't want anybody to know that they went in through her navel and took out one of her ovaries or whatever. And but they went in there and she had this surgery. It's $10,000. And that night, the surgery's done in the morning. That night, a company comes in, delivers a single rose. She cried. And of course, I'm thinking, internal marketing, cheesy. She's laying there crying. And sure enough, it was an hour later, after he got home, washed up, had dinner, whatever. His family, everybody was settled down. It's about 10 o'clock. He lived right by the hospital. He thought, I'm just going to swing back by there. Walks in at 10:20. My wife was sleeping. I was sitting right there. Wakes her shoulder and everything. Says, hey, Judith, how you doing? And she loves this guy. Hell, she'd leave me in a second run off this guy if he was available. This is not an occupation where he's a naval roto-rooter, ovary taker-outer. Hell, these are patients. He's treating this patient like he wants to be treated. The only thing every major religion has in common. Read every religion. Hinduism, Confucius, Judaism, Buddhism, Christianity. Treat other people like you wanted to be treated. And if you would face the monsters in your practice and slay the dragons once and for all, it would take you no longer than an FAGD, MAGD, and an MBA. You got those 3 things, the dragon is slayed, and when you slay the dragon, you feel like your life had purpose, you feel like you conquered something, you feel absolutely like your life has been sucked out of you when you sit around every day waiting for the welfare check. I'll never forget when I was a little kid, the church still said for Thanksgiving we were going to put up all these groceries in boxes and we were going to go around and deliver it to these people, and they'd be really happy since we were giving them food, and you knock on the door and they'd open the door. My God, the minute your smiling face with your sister showed up, when you saw the look on that man's face, how would you like to on Thanksgiving be taking canned food from a little 14-year-old girl and a 12-year-old boy? It demoralized them. No one wants to be dependent on someone else. No one wants to be on welfare. No one wants to be dysfunctional. It's just that they can't slay the dragon. You can slay the dragon. Hell, you're a damn dentist. Go back and face the enemy. Quit starving your problems and start feeding your opportunities. If the dragon is account receivables, if the dragon is you don't know how to schedule a patient on your own computer, if the dragon is you don't even know how many reports SoftDent kicks out, if the problem is you can't even read a balance sheet, a statement of income, or a balance sheet, or a P&L, if that's the problem, quit going into denial to golf courses and learning how to do $10,000 veneer courses and start with the problem. Entrepreneurs wake up every day and they start with a list. And they think, okay, if I could get everything done today, what would it be? And they write down their list. They say, okay, today you got 30,000 days of life. This is 1 day of life. Here's my problems. Then after you write down all your problems, you have clarity, you have focus, you have power of focus. And you say, well, of all these problems, which one, if I use my irreversible day life and all the assets and capital I have, which problem would be the most important to solve? All entrepreneurs do is they get up every day and they say, how can I maximize this day for the highest return on my life investment? And if you write a list and said, well, account receivables are growing, we're not getting many new patients, I still don't know why I'm getting sensitivity on 5% of my all ceramic crowns, bond on molars, but my house is on fire. Well, after you write that all down, you might think to yourself, maybe I should first call the fire department and put out the big fire. So go out there and slay the dragon, and I'll see you tomorrow.